crime prevention and ways to handle responding to different situations. So was an auxiliary police officer with the NYPD, the New York Police Department, patrolled the streets of Manhattan near the 42nd Street area. Got some good experience there, some community policing experience, and I also was a child protective specialist with the Administration for Children's Services. And the Administration for Children's Services in New York City is like DFACS is in Georgia. So I would have to go out to homes and investigate allegations of child abuse and neglect. So mandated reporters like school teachers, the pediatrician, doctors, social workers, they would report, hey, this child may be abused, and our job was to go out and investigate within 24 hours, make a determination whether to remove the child, put the child in foster home, and make a plan to present to the court for reunification of that child with the family, if that's possible. Wow. Went away to law school in Michigan. I went to Thomas Cooley Law School. It's now called Western Michigan. It was the largest law school at the time when I got there, and it was a class of about 580 some people, and second largest class, and we graduated. When I graduated, it was maybe about 180 some people. So, wow. You know, it definitely was hard work. Did a lot of things while in law school. Was the chair of the Moot Court Board. Did the Innocence Project, which dealt with exonerating or attempting to exonerate individuals who claim they were wrongfully convicted. And if you all are familiar with the Innocence Project, it was started by Barry Scheck, one of the O.J. Simpson defense lawyers, and a few other attorneys. And it dealt with when DNA became popular in 1996 is when the Innocence Project kind of took that whole role with dealing with DNA and took it further along. And so that was great experience. I was also a public defender through the Third Year Practice Act with the Washtenaw County Public Defender's Office in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And then I relocated to Georgia. I'm licensed to practice in New Jersey. I can practice law in New Jersey, Georgia, and Washington, D.C., as well as federal courts, both the northern and southern districts here in Georgia. Oh, wow. I met my wife in law school, Keisha Knights, the owner of the Knights Law Group, located right here in Clayton County in Forest Park. KnightsLegal.com is the website, and met Keisha in law school, and we both took the Georgia bar together, and passed together and relocated back to Georgia. She's from Georgia.
You know what? Power couple in the house.
And she does divorces. I heard you all speaking about divorces earlier. So, called Keisha Knights with the Knights Law Group. She can handle those for your listeners out there.
I have a really quick question.
Yes.
You said you used to work for the NYPD Blue.
Well,
the NYPD.
As an auxiliary officer, yes.
So, have you ever watched Law and Order SVU?
I have.
Is it kind of like that?
Well, it's like that if you just had one case to work on, but in terms of meaning the volume is a lot more. So those cases with Law and Order are more detective, so that's not the local patrol officer. The patrol officer just deals with, of course, the pullovers, the responding to 911 calls. So as far as the detective side, that's more kind of what you see on a show like Law and Order SVU. That's more
so it's not as
involved.
Not as fun looking as Law and Order SVU.
Not necessarily, depending on who you ask. But as far as going forward with my career in Georgia here, I was an assistant solicitor general, prosecuted people who charged with misdemeanor crimes. And you all spoke a little bit about domestic violence, and I guess we can get into that. Battery family violence is a misdemeanor here in Georgia, a serious one. So much so that it can cause a person to not have a firearm permit, which could affect them, of course, being in law enforcement or military or some other professions. Right. And then I moved I was in Clayton County. I was an assistant solicitor. Then I went to the Griffin Judicial Circuit, which covered Fayette, Spalding, Pike, and Upson counties. I was a drug prosecutor there for about 3 years. And then I came back to Clayton County as a senior litigation assistant district attorney, prosecuted all major felonies, your murders, your armed robberies, kidnapping, child molestation, etc. And left at the end of 2011, joined Keisha with the Knights Law Group and specialized in criminal defense and some civil litigation. Later on in 2012, I was appointed to magistrate court by Judge Walker as a magistrate court judge. And the role of a magistrate court judge is unique in a sense it's both civil and criminal. And I was still able to practice law in other counties, just not in Clayton County. Since that time, I've since left that office, and I'm seeking to run for Superior Court judge here in Clayton County.
Oh, wow.
2016, May 2016. So be on the lookout, and I'm basing my running based on fairness and experience in the law. I have a broad viewpoint from every aspect. Everything I mentioned in my career so far is what's done in Superior Court. Divorces, civil hearings, civil trials, criminal cases, felonies, civil forfeiture. So, you know, just a brief overview. I know it's only an hour show, but we could go on. We could go on.
I was looking down my list of questions like check.
And you know,
and everything.
The only question I have is like, you know, sometimes you get into an argument with your loved one and they say, "What are you, a lawyer?" You can actually say that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
His wife can say it right back. Yes,
I am.
Yeah, and it's funny. We were just speaking about that. You know, Keisha and I were speaking about that. People always say, "Well, how do you deal with arguments at home?" And we're regular people, just like everyone else. I don't go around and say, "Well, Rachel, do you and your loved one at home argue about who's going to go to commercial break first?" You know.
No, because they automatically know it's going to be me.
I object.
You know, but we have a lot of fun with it. The love for the law. We both have common love for the law, and
That's
I think.
Real quick, can you tell us like one of the craziest or funniest experiences you had like in court?
Well, funny as in.
Like it could be crazy at the moment, but then you look back at it, you're like, oh my god.
Well, there's so many scenarios to choose from. I remember one right off, and this was a couple years ago in magistrate court where I was presiding on a stalking protective order case, and it wasn't the typical, you know, maybe boyfriend girlfriend or some type of relationship like that. It was neighbors. And they literally lived across the street from each other. And so this wasn't their first time, second time, third time. It was about the 7th or 8th time. It was back and forth, filing against each other. 1 week they would file, a couple months later. And so it was just back and forth. And it would be simple things like, well, they came outside and they rolled the trash out and, you know, and they looked at me wrong and they tried to come over. So it's kind of, you have to listen and assess the situation. So situations like that to me, just hearing it, of course wasn't funny at the time, but looking back, you know, you still have to maintain your composure and listen to both sides and be fair.
Hey, who has money like that? Like BJ, I want you to stay on your side of the table. Because we have a lawyer, we have a judge in here. So lawyer, Mr. Knight,
as you were.
Judge Knight, yes.
Remain seated.
I need BJ. I want to do a protective order against her.
No.
She's hogging airtime.
What can I say?
All right, so we need to work that out for the next show.
Can we go into mediation?
All right, guys, I want you to stick it here because we have more with Judge Stephen Knight. But coming up, we have Blackstreet, No Diggity. This is The Real with Rachel D. Keep it here.